Omud Tuf Mem Zayin. So we saw that where the Akoyach is Malubish in a Kli, and the Keli is Magvil, the Skalas, the Koyachas, then the Koyachas Elyonim Mia Kliazeh are only Puyo in the Spashtas. That's to say, where there are also Kelim which are or Koyachas Pnimium. So then Koyach Elyon is only able to be Puyo in the Ha'ora, which is Miskalim Michutz L'Kli. But it's not Puyo Habitul in the Etzem HaMahus of that Koyach. And we said, "V'hainu mipnei she'akoyachas nitfosim b'mkeimon ba'kelim shelahem, ve'einam yotzim chutz limkeimon rach ha'ora levad. Al kein einam poelim rach b'hispashtus hakoyachas chiteinim lo yishinui be'etzem ha'mahusam." Het is al terug weer de ene van een chovush mates atzmim beis asurim. That since the Koyach Elyon, or the Koyach on which we're done, he himself is a Koyach Pnimim, therefore he's Malubish in a Kli, is it's well known what is Meir mi Chutz L'Kli is alidei Chitzonis HaKli, and that Chitzonis HaKli is Mailam Amastir on the Etzem oil of the Koyach. Remember, only Ha'or is Meir mi Chutz L'Chitzonis HaKelim. It's a Klal Yadur. So if we're talking about interaction from one koyach to the other, then it can't be poel anything more than a ha'ora mi'atzmei onto a ha'ora from the koyach on which it's poel. So therefore, the resultant shinui in the makabel is only a shinui in the spashtas of another in etzem hamahuz. And we brought for an interesting example that when I mentions Torud b'ima kaseichel, or afil in Amida, he's Torud in a Israkshus or a Regish Godel v'Moish Zman, then we see that the Klei HaIkul become somewhat standstill, that the Klei HaIkul are not poil mitzad the Godel HaTilda that there is in the Inyan HaSeichel. It's not the type that he's only monea the pe'ula shelehem v'derech ha'rogio. Or he's not poil that they would do something else altogether, or that they would be mamish mishtane le'inyan acher, only in what you might call the spashtas and the koyachas hamoichin, which are koyachas which at that particular moment are shoilet. Then they cause in only these pastures of that particular koyach, but not a shinu in the etzem hamahus. However, we saw that the union of koyach harot, I think that's where we were holding, or maybe I'm not right, but I think that's where we were holding. Yeah. Ach, we said koyach harotzen, hari poyu b'cholo evorim gam heifek tivo. When it comes to the gilia, the union of rotzen, even though we call rotzen also a koyach, it's also a Yizgalas Musuyemes from the Nefesh. However, being as it's Mavur, Bahabi Makimus, Natiyas HaEtzem, the Inyan von Rotzen, is the Etzem, how it itself becomes a Koyach. In other words, how the Etzem is Noiter, Lifoil Sofkosov, in Inyanim Musuyomim, because the Inyan Rotzen is the Hatoyer towards the Etzem, what you might call Toivas or Inyan, and Sof Kol Sof, it's Puel, even in the Chitanias Inyanim Almanas, to gain the Chayfetz that there is in the Rotzen. And so therefore he said that the Inyan and Rotzen, being as it is, Inyan from Hatoyas Ha'etzem, in other words, not just a Ha'ora, but that's the Etzem itself is Nimshach of a Puel. What is the Chiddush in the Inyan HaRotzen, and for that matter also in the Inyan HaTainuk, that they are mamish the Etzem, what you might call the Gilui HaEtzem, not just a Koyach which is Nimshach in a Kli. And that's a Dover Yadua, that the Rotzen doesn't have any kli. That even though we see that the Rotzen is miskale b'derech klal alidei hamoyach, but not the taste that the moyach is a kli to the inyan Rotzen. It's only that certain inyanim in seichel are a form of media, what we might call almost like an inyan of it's like the difference between, what do we call it, Islapshus and Ma'avir. That sometimes the moyach is a Ma'avir for the inyan Rotzen. But it's mavur that the inyan Rotzen can be nimshach and nimtza b'chol eiva that it's a kavanas etzem to be megala dot the Rotzen, and it can appear in any eiva, but also even that it appears in the moyach. It's not chart to say that the moyach is the kli of the Rotzen. Just that sometimes there's a certain kivun or bittul in the Rotzen to the inyan seichel, but not that be'emes the seichel is a kli to the Rotzen. And if since Rotzen doesn't have any kli, and in Yoni is gilui ha'etzem, therefore it's poil b'chol ha'evorim equally, but it's also poil in them ha'in von heifach tivon. In other words, that it can affect them in such a way that they'll do the opposite of their normal natiyah. And that's the difference, like the case we just bought, that he doesn't change the etzem natiyah of equal. He just holds it up for a while and is monea the normal speed or the normal development of the inyan ha'equal, or sochosov, it goes ahead kerogio. In other words, he hasn't been meshana the etzem derech or the etzem, what you might call tchuna of that inyan. Mashenkin in the inyan Rotzen, it can be poel a shinui in the tchuna atzmius of that particular eva, if that was the kavana l'shem ma the Rotzen was nimsha. K'moy losum raglei b'mayim kodim b'yoisa oy b'mayim chamim b'yoisa. Yeah, interesting that he brings to put him in cold water before he brings to put him in hot water. Even that maybe that's even more difficult. Yeah, to put him in mamish mayim kodim b'yoisa. In other words, that the teva of a eva is that it can't take more than a certain temperature, and therefore it would not mitzad atzmei and mitzad tivui harogil, it would never put itself near that type of inyan. And the Rotzen can be poil that it do a thing mamish heipach its own teva. And like they tell about the inyan from Mayim Kodim, they tell about Bichud Masmit, as I said, the Sipur, when he was young, how did he get the name Masmit? Not just because he used to learn a bit more than other people, but he used to, at night time, he used to sit. And, night is when the brain makes different things in order to make you sleep. So to keep himself awake, he used to put his feet in cold water. As they tell me, yeah. He used to sit with his feet in a dish of cold water. Yeah, and there was another story that they say he used to hold a fork alongside his forehead. Yeah. Emma's. Shamati Gamze v'Gamze. Maybe use both of the eitzes berega achas. We see from that to put the water, feet in cold water. This is a starke shinui ateva. But the money that in the Galilim in Rusland, it was quite a business to put your feet in cold water. Most of the year, I would think. Not like over here, it's summer the whole year. Being the particular nisyanas and trials of the Jewish people at the moment, that's also one of them. I don't think there's any water left anywhere. It's a pity that you're able to turn on a tap and still get water. Anyway, he said, "Kavoi losum raglei b'mayim karim oiber mayim chamim b'yoyser." U'b'derech klal, kol shinui ateva legamrei be'etzem mahus hakoiches, ain't shum monea o meyakev ala rotzen. The Rebbe says, summing up the whole inyan, you take any shinui ateva that you want, I feel in the very etzem mahus of the koiches, which the rotzen may address itself, then ain't shum monea umiakev ala rotzen. You name it, we can do it. In other words, the rotzen will do whatever you want, and that's what's brought down. One of the milas legabi din in a rotzen, alefilo legabi tainug. The tainug, with all its milas and its makif hagodl, but oinig is only misanig in dvarim she oinig, yeah, laodam. Mashing in the Indian from rotzen can be poil in yone, which a mamish hyper kill ha natia, yeah, what you might call tzodekis from the men's of the it's understandable, and even correct me today that he shouldn't do in yonim ke'elav. Afu pikein the Indian from rotzen can be poil as all as your time. Yeah, was yeah, I feel in dvarim, lamaila mi geda harogi legamre. Yeah. I mean, that's put down in the Drushim, that's one of the milas of rotzen. So there was like we pointed out, he doesn't really have a kli. Now that's the first time he mentioned here in this couple of sentences the lashon etem. I'm going to get to the rotzen because it's well known that that's the chiddush of rotzen. The normal we say that a etem is not nimshach. That's a klal gadol. That a etem is not nimshach and a etem is not mishchalik. And yet nonetheless we say that the rotzen is a form of amshachas ha'etem. Albeit it's not mamish amshachas ha'etem mamish, and therefore we call it only hatoyas ha'etem. But even the word hatoya has a very strong implication. Hatoya means the proneness or the leaning of the zak k'moshu. Yeah, the Chiddush Gadol, the Indian from rotzen, and in Emerson, one needs to sort of be. That's why we call it koyach harotzen, because we don't want to say mamish the etzem k'moshu who is nimshach. But l'chayra, it's not far from saying that, because if you take the rotzen ha'atzmi, which is Yechidah Shebenevish, okay, etzem, yeah, l'chayra, this is mamish a gilui upon him at the very etzem. And it's poil b'chol ha'evarim b'shova, as a one on it. Even if in Yechida can be poil, the mensch, yeah, we'll do in yonim legamri, l'mayla mikol ta'am b'daz, and l'mayla mikol agvola. So there were the kitzas tzorikiyun was b'diuk is the getter of that inyan of the etzem in the rotzen. Upon him, the Rebbe says it clearly, since he's a etzem, then he's just nimshach b'chol mokeh. Even though that lashon nimshach when I get to a etzem is a little bit more atzumas life, was it a pshat in them of whatever shouldn't be the pshat as a yidus. In other words, that the etzem is taken nimshach. Huh?
Why can't the etzem be nimshach? Why can't the etzem be nimshach?
Because the etzem is not given to any form of his galus, koshevu. Etzem is what it is. And if a etzem is mishkale, then only the whole etzem, like it is, just comes begoli. I was not trying to say that an etzem gives off from itself, its own self. It gives off from itself things which are only ha'oras or giluim. But it doesn't give the etzem k'moshu doesn't go anywhere. And that's a big klal. It's an axiomatic klal. So there's etzem is loy nimshach or loy mishchalik. Yeah. But yesh l'Yisrael al zeh mitzad the klal gadol chelik min ha'etzem. Yeah, we say that the neshama is a chelik min ha'etzem. Yeah, and we say, was it the famous lashon dot Rab Saadia Gaon was it shata nogeh b'chelik min ha'etzem ata nogeh b'kulei. Was it a lashon chelik min ha'etzem? Well, that's easier to do it because he didn't really mean chelik. He just meant kilo. If you actually beish away from nogeh el ha'etzem. But when we say the neshamas are chelik min ha'etzem, that's really more interesting. But you want to the pshat that the etzem somehow or another gives itself k'moshehu, even though kitzat soriki and takavi does. Yeah. But the etzem itself is not mishpashet, and therefore we call it koyach harotzen. But tzurik leidok, we say that the rotzen is the etzem. In a way, even more than the tainug, even though tainug is higher in a way than rotzen. Because rotzen is nimshach lamata, Harbi in Yonah. Mashiach Tainuk doesn't go that way. Tainuk is Daki Nidbak, Niklar in the Etzer. Anyway, so he said, Nimshu B'kol Mokim, Achamoishin is Burliu, Perek Nun Aleph and Nun. Yeah, Nun Beis, that's at the beginning of the Hemshah, where the Rebbe is Mavaya, the mile of Rotzen over the Koiches Hapinimium, particularly the Koich HaChochma. Okay, as who Poyo B'chol HaIvorim Shinui Ateva. Pelde Dike Zah. Yeah, Mamish, Shinui Ateva. In other words, that's maybe the in het enige door zo je moet befneya harotzen with Zamayim HaChochom. That nothing can really get it, or you can't tie it. That's just your way of doing things. So just don't want to do it, and you won't do it. As eerlijk komt uit, is een Harbi Le'elam Yilmed Adam B'mochim Shali B'chofetz. But sometimes that's brought as a dogma at the Indian Tainuk. Chofetz is the famim kil goyvel al Indian Tainuk. However, Harbi Bituim, which indicate that the Rotzen can mamish change ganze situations. A mensch can mamish change min hakot ela kot. V'yesh lema adugma mizeh lamayla b'ha'eres da erste sfiras da Atzilus. So all of a sudden we get very elevated and we say that what's our dogma for the Koiches Apnimium, for the Amshoches, Anefesh B'toit Kelim, and the dogma Mizela Maila is Atzilus. What Atzilus is Mamish Elakut. Dimi is the Ein Seif Lis Pashtusa. Heilige, what sort of raya is that? There's a cloud that the Esesphere is Ein Seif Lis Pashtusa. We spoke in the dogma about the oir of the nefesh being mugba alidei kli. But here we say that there's no safe to the spheres. In each individual sphere is ain't safe. Let's pashtusay. And l'chera was far rayados. Come to say that there's no union of kiyu hakbola being magbil to that. It's able to be nimshach ad ain't say.
It seems also.
So there we say, huh?
The whole beginning, we started this mimer trying to understand Orita de Liba. We started this mimer trying to understand Orita de Liba, which we described as the Makif of Chaya, which is the menorah, which is in the Kodesh, which is the Union from
the Esses Spheres, they're not Makif. The Esses Spheres are Davke Pnimi. That's Oiros B'tech HaKelim. Right.
And that which we said.
So we said wherever oil is malubish in a kli, then the kli is magbil the oil. It can only be a ice pastas bilvad, a haora bilvad. You follow? In other words, that it's already mugbal the feed in a kli. So that's what he's bringing now as a dogma from the Esespheres Tatsilas. And if he just puts in a lotion which is a little bit mukshil, if he clouds there, we say that the Esespheres are ain't safe, les pashtusa. Each sphere is kilo ein sofla legilishula. And how are you going to say that you magbil in such a way it's only a kilo adova mugbo which is nimship? That's the unit. So he said the imi yesh ein seiflis pashtus and harizer rapa madregas datzilas avloi b'biyah. In other words, they were not just taking atzilas on its own. We're taking atzilas as a mashpia to biyah. Everything in Atzilus is ain't safe. We come to say the Kelim are also ain't safe. Yeah, and so the others. What we mean by saying that that's a dogma that the Kli is magbil the other, that it's only a dova mugbal alidei the Kli, or that's the shefa of Atzilus into Biyah. And therefore he said the kasha ain't safe less pashtusim is not really nogeya, because we're not talking about Atzilus itself. We're talking about Atzilus, how it goes over into Biyah. The Elam is Biyah, hein between us Pirud. Mishom Yipored, like it's written by the Abba Nahores in Sefer Bereshis. It's written in Mishom Yipored, Nahar Yechemi Eid, Lahashkes is Agon, Mishom Yipored, well that's Maramas Elam Apriya. The Eshkam, Tarev is Teva, Vorah. Not only that once you get down further into Elamas Biyah, then you have also Tarevis Teva. Wow. V'hainu mipnei sha'eres datzilas ein shabo b'chinas midu ugvu. בהם מבחינת תפיס ושלבשים בקרים דאצילוס. ויאוך כן, אינו mehr האויר באילומס ביאה, רק האורלה רעד. Maar is the enige name in Atzilus itself, you can't very well say that, because every sphere is een van een cijferless pastus. But into Biyah, then it's a very interesting heichacha what the Rebbe bring. The first one he says that they're in from how do you call it, Pirud, that Elam is Biyah in from Pirud, and then he said not only they're Pirud, but there's also in from Taruvus Teva Vorah. In other words, Pirud indicates that that's already not Elikus, it's already a dover, how do you call it, a magische Satz me'achopanim, lemufrad. Something that lives in, even from mufrad, is not Elikus, it can't possibly be. It can't be dover, mamish in Elikus. Afal pi, miretach mevil kochen sich in Moshiach. It's written in the words of the Rebbe on several occasions, when Mashiach will come, they will not only see how everything is bottled to Elikus, but we'll see how everything is Elikus. Gam kein tzorich hier in Kol HaGdora, so, what a teich, that the Nivra is going to be Mamish Elikus. I mean, if he's a Nivra, then he's not Elikus. If he is how is he going to be? We're going to see that really the Nivra is really Elikus. I say, it's tzorich bio b'zeh. Right now I haven't got the clear for that. I mean, yesh levayir et zeh, yesh lahamik b'zeh. I'm just saying that until Moshiach comes and we see the emes lamite, not just emes, but we'll see emes lamite, then the nivroim are nifrodim. As if they're nifrodim, they're not elikus and they're not atzilus, because atzilus is mamshela. Elikus. And therefore the Rebbe brings that as a hoichacha that the which is meir from Atzilus can't be meir mamish kamoishu in biyah miachavus in biyah. You already get pirud. As if you got pirud, it can't possibly be man it via ha'ora biyah mamish. Ha'ora so much mukbal that it can give rise to a dover hipuchi, a dover which is mamish ha'ip from Atzilus. And then it goes on even further. As you go further down in biyah, shouldn't you get Taruvus Teva Vorah? You even get a Zamin Ha'ipuk, which is not just Ha'ipuk because it feels itself as a Matthias, but it can be in a Zamin even what Atakya is tut in a Zaven, Kilo Neged Elikus. That's Kilo Mamish Managed to Elikus. So that's Inu Vorah. If I remember the Inu from Taruvus Teva Vorah, Yesh Lema Adosi di Ike von alle Tzores. Die Ikke van alle tzores and van alle inyanim, what happened by the Chedai Tzadas, and it's put down in the Yochet Roveni, it's about 30 different dvarim b'lti utzuyim that happened in the world because of Chedai Tzadas. Ja, dus niet, alle menesot inyanim and Sachen, met dus niet, aber der inyan, dat is wat zich reingemischt, de Teuv, I'm sorry, the Ra in the Teuv, Azar Tzore, that's the worst of all of them. Yeah. And well, we said to Welt, you see a Dover Teuv, and then all of a sudden you misbein, and you see that Yesh says, in other words, wherever you touch, and wherever you try to dray yourself, to say, you all of a sudden you become shaken by something that you see that that's not what we hope for, not what we thought. And you meet up with all sorts of inyanim, b'nayodam and mansion and those, they have a good kavanah, but they really meant themselves a little bit everything sort of mished tzacharaim in inyanim bilti, rutzuyim and inyanim hafukim. Ja, zemizeh. Mamir said the Rebbe, if the ashpor from Atzilus can touch a feeling into a zamin inyan, it can be a oil which is machaye azazach, and everything should go on. Yeah, they call it business as usual, even though you got Taruvus Teva, and the earth and Atzilus doesn't say we're all going back from here, back into Atzilus. Is a simon that those kelim are really makbil the earth of Atzilus. It's a very interesting Eichacha. And he said, Fabuas, he said, because the Eres Vatzil Bob begins Midu Gvu, by him begins Tfis Beslapshim Bekerim Dea Shilas, Biakein Eino Meya Ha'er Benams Bia Racha Orela. We need to understand that Gvu. We just said that the Spheres of Atzilas are ain't safe, Lis Pashtusom. And here we say, no, the Eres, how they are in Atzilas, come between us Midove. Tfisa, I'm sorry, ein beginnes Midu Ugvu, ein beginnes Tfis, Beslapses Bekelim da Atzilas. En dan ga je even zeggen, if the Kelim da Atzilas only beginnes Midu Ugvu, what are the types that ain't safe, Lis Pashtusa, what is the word? Ma Indian mezelf. Look at that sound of Shavuot, I mean, it has to do here, and maybe it could have just been passed over quickly and we could have gone on. אבל אז הצורך hier. יש להם בקיצר נמרץ, הדביר בזה, is המבוא in Harvey Drushim and Chsilas, that even though we say that there is Gvu in Atzilus, and the Alter Rebbe, that's well known, the shit of the Alter Rebbe, there's a famous mimer from the Alter Rebbe in Tov Kuz Samach Tes, I think it is. And there the Alter Rebbe says that the Kelim da Atzilas are Gvu Mamish. They're not just Stam Gvu, but they're Mamish Gvu. Is if they're Mamish Gvu, and that's one of the things that we find in the Pirkei Heicholos state that we state that the parts of the Shur Kaima. The Kelim, the Atzilus is Reish Lamed Vov Parsois. It's a Pegadikalosh. The Kelim, the Atzilus. So I mean, Reish Lamed Vov Elef Parsois, Reish Lamed Vov Elef Parsois, West Pink 3-4 Parsois. I mean, that's like a measurement. This is the Korab's Pele. So the Alter Rebbe wants to be Mochiach Mizeh, that we have to say that the Kelim, the Atzilus are Mamish Gvu. Is der Mamish Gvu, we pass this mit ein safe Lis Pashtuson, how do you fit in with that? We get this, how does it go? Because you can't just say it's only mitzad dioiras. We say that the Spheres ain't safe Lis Pashtuson. So we have to sort of, in a way, you might say, dance on two chasanas. Mitzad Echon, we have to say that the Ein Hanami, there is Mamish Gvu in Atzilus. And that the Islavsis, but we have to say that the Gabi Biyah, well, that's only Koyach Gvu. It's not Mamish Azah Gvu in the Even Gvu of Biyah. And therefore we have to play on a lotion of relativity. And we have to say that Ein Nachanomi is Gvu, the Gabi Amiti is Ein Seif, over the Gabi Biyah, this is Bligu. And maybe we could say that Pirush Adova, that the Iker in Atzilus, the Kelim, are Magbil in what you might call the Inyan. They're Magbil that if the oil of Chesed is Mishlavish in Kli HaChesed, then that's Chesed ad Ein Seif. But that Chesed will go Ein Seif, but it's not going to become something else. In other words, it'll be Nimshech ad Ein Seif, but it's only Chesed. And Gvura can be Nimshech ad Ein Seif, possibilities of Gvura, and Inyonic Gvura, and Gilui HaGvura, or it's only Gvura. And therefore, in order that you get Tiferes, you have to have another koyach. Mashu Daimed, what we're going to see in a second here. You have to have another koyach, but that should poil you a bittul b'shneihem, and al you can get another inyan, which is called Tiferet. But without that koyach, if it'll l'mayla mi kol ha'atzilas, you wouldn't get that inyan for Tiferet, because Gevura goes ad ein seif, and Chesed goes ad ein seif. Aber ein noch anami, ein ze bo b'tei Gevula shel, ze ele in the inyan from Iskalalus. Of Iskalalus is not the immediate inyan of a new middle, which is called Tiferet. Even though yesh bezig inyan shel Iskalalus. We have to say that that's the inyan at a ein seif lis pashtuson, but nonetheless it's mid'u Mida ugvul, in the sense that the inyan is what it is and it's never mishtane. Amamira, that inyan is built in mishtane, that's the kli, and that inyan is a mochi for kli mamish in biyah. Now this is what we say koyach hagvul, even though lagabi amiti is ain't safe, it's already gvul. And therefore, says the Rebbe, whatever, wie is on the time of pshat, it comes out that the oil of Atzilus is nimshuk b'bchinas ha'ora, which can give rise even to midah ugvul kipshuti pies a'inim from tarevis teva. Ora, v'al kein einu meya ha'oyer b'einam es biyah rach ha'ora li levat. Ve'im yesh shepoyer bittul b'biyah, that oil of Atzilus, wherever it's nimshuk, that brings a bittul into biyah, harihu rak b'bchinas bittul hayesh levat. Or even the oil of Atzilus, where it's nimshuk into biyah, isn't poil ha'emesa bittul ha'mahus, and only bittul hayesh levat. And that's an interesting in it, that even the oil of Atzilus is nimshuk into biyah. If das wird nishkale also in von Atzilus, it's poil a bittul, but it's only a bittul hayesh vad, isn't it? So who's it do? I mean, Atzilus is Atzilus. Aber wie bald so ein Nimshach ha'ora is then maximum is you get bittul hayesh. But in that kufa, we have to say there can be certain possibilities of go even a bittul. For example, a portan Gan Eden. What is Gan Eden? I feel Gan Eden earlier. It is Gilui Atzilus in Olam HaBriya. Or Gan Eden Stam is Gilui Atzilus in Olam HaYetzirah. Das viel Ahora which comes up in Asiya. In real time, by the neshamas that sit in Gan Eden Elyon, they're mamish nenin me ziva shchina, they're nenin l'chera me mahusa ziv. Yeah, you want to tell me that they only have bittul hayesh bilvad? So the answer l'chera is yeah. L'gabi amiti is a bittul, that's only bittul hayesh bilvad. Because what are the neshamas that they are in Gan Eden, particularly Terem Yeridosam, Lamanta, there are solche beings, I don't want to call them Nivroim, there are solche beings, what they have, a gewaltige Chush in Asoge, and in Gilui Asoge, in Midas, noch Asoge, in Yonim. Gan Eden is how they call it Gan Eden. How they call it paradise, the ideal world. It may just go higher and higher and higher in your Asoges. So you're not going to tell me it could become bottled again in the thing beside your Asoge. Das ist nicht bittul hamahus. It's only the touch of this we go on always. You've just become a tremendously high representative of what you really represent. You represent a zach which is masik, ayesh, and now you've become in the highest possible way. You got the, how do they say in English, the best possible opportunities. Yeah, so you take up, you go up from level to level, how do you call it, your hallelujah selo. And half of PK and it's called bittul hayesh. It's how much more so where Atzilus comes to Mamish and Al Bosha and he slapshus in the lower beginners. It's all even bittul hayesh. Pili. Aber he said, ain't safe shall if nea Atzilus, Harayam Shochosiv is Pashtusay Gamba Biyah Kamoi Batzilus. In other words, Atzilus sits at his slapshus, there's Bekelim, and then those Kelim, no matter what may be their biur, their magbiur, Halio comes into Biyah. Over the original Maila Mi Atzilus, what there's no real Kelim Bentayim. The Inifan Kli is not really a Inifan. Iskalos or how do you call it, mishmashmas of the kli mamish, and the earth just, as you might say, has its own freedom. The earth is got complete liberty, and the earth is meya l'mayla me'atzilus and in biyah ba'isa ha'oifa. And therefore, that's poyo we're going to see in Yonim in a different type of bittul. Now we have to say, der אולי אין הכוונה דו כל כך העניין von Toyu, because Toyu was only what it was a shvira. And what the Ur is not nimshik kol kach b'biyah. Tzorek tasiyun what it means by saying the Ur shall maila me'atzilas. L'chora we mean akudim and ak, the inonim which are al derech how do you might call it, the tzafui, what we can assume is going to be the whole seder. Of Toyu is a bilti seder legami. Toyu is l'chora nit in them. Kein yesh lema b'derech efshar. In other words, that the Amshoch is from other von Akudim, other von Ak. And like the Alter Rebbe Masbi in the famous Igeres in chapter 20, that Ragli Ak nimtzoim be Asiya k'moi be Lamayla v'chulu. Ak is just nimtzo b'kol mokim. So Rebbe puts in brackets now. V'hainu she'efshar liyesh begilu b'biyah k'moi be Atzilas. It's able for it to be begoli b'biyah. K'moi ba'ah Atzilas. In other words, that the oil amayla me Atzilas can also be begoli b'Atzilas. Lama lo. But then it's Gilu in Atzilas and it's Gilu in Biyah are all one and the same thing. Mashing in the way the oil comes be slapshis b'Atzilas, then it's a chilik between Atzilas and Biyah. Mashing in oil ha'Atzilas. Aber the oil of Atzilas greater. בכדי שיהיה גילוי בביאה, צריך להיות דווקא על ידי גילוי אור עליון של המעלה מהאצילוס וביאה. In other words, if you want Atzilus to come down begolui כמו שהוא, בלי that האורה על ידי ההגבולה of the kli, then you got to have a אור עליון, which is למעלה מהביאה והאצילוס גם יחד, and that has to be poil in the union of Atzilus, that it should be yored be kvoide or be achme into the union of that. So what do we have to say? How does that relate to the oil which we just were talking about? We said there's an oil l'mayla me'Atzilus, that it touches miskal in Atzilus, and its gili everywhere is the same. Mashenken, he said oil Atzilus, dafke al yedei gili oil elyon shel l'mayla me'Atzilus. Or k'may ubiyah. What does that mean? That Atzilus was mamish nimshich into Biyah, it one Loshen, or according to another Loshen, that Biyah was Eile and Dobak in Atzilus, but Gabi in Yonenu, it's the same. Inyan, Shahoyo alidei haruach kodim davke. What's brought down that the ruach kadim, or that tremendously powerful east wind that kept blowing against the water the whole time, or that was mi kadmoino shel oilom, in other words, from a oya elyon b'yozer l'mayla gam mi'atzilus u'biyah gam yachad. And so then he goes on to say that that's poyer abitul b'biyah b'chinas bitul mahu, so that's poyer in etzem pintel rein. Das geht rein, mamish in the, as you might say, in the pupik that goes into the tummy, and this is poyer abitul be'etzem mahuz. So also k'tas tzorikim, what oil is that? Is that this oil that we said that is shover b'atzilus and biyah everywhere, or is it maybe something even higher than that? Yes, it's nicht mugdar kol kach. We have to say that maybe we could say it's the same oil, but maybe we'd say the difference is that what he said in the brackets, that it can be in gilui b'biyah k'moi b'atzilus. That means gilui, but not what you might call gilui b'derech pu'ula b'hechreya. It's galui dot, something similar to what we say that tzeive is nimshah b'kol mokim. It's nimshah, b'pnimius, of a beli his pilots. Now, it's b'kol mokim b'ezeh even. Since these oils are makifim l'gabi atzilus, they're nimshah b'kol mokim dot. Mashiach, what he says in the next couple of sentences, he says that it can be a chibur atzilus b'yad yedei alien. What's going on and what happens? So we have to say that maybe that's the purpose that oil comes with a kavana of tafki ufton in atzilus. In other words, that you can be a machiv and you can be even begoloi, but you're not necessarily misasik with the with the Indian. Machine, if you come and you're an alien and you come Davke al Manas, if it's to Ufton, then you can force in Yonim. You might call you can stuppen in Yonim, which are not there, but they're Harogil. And that's all Terevidi from Leelam Yul Maidonim, Bemokim Shalibi Klofeit. I was a optimistic rotzen, a starke rotzen, over that rotzen prods and pumps at the Koiches HaGiluyim, and he all the time is hammering with that rotzen as Avil and Avil, yes, so he's able to be Masik in Yonim, but also Bepnimius that he wouldn't have done but a Harogio. Mashenkin, you say, look, he likes high things and he likes learning, but he doesn't actually pump with the rotzen, then he's got a nice rotzen, he has good feelings, he's got good tainum talin on him, but where he does it with Daina, what he wants that tafkid to be poyel, and that should be machriach in on him, that's another man. And we have to say that that's nimshach, alidei what's called in Siddur Das Nela. That's when you really makusha to the Yonim Behem Islamite. Well, then you can bring a gilui of the rotzen, even that it's puyo shinui. Upon him, or that uyer, what he's nimcha bebiyah, pink to say vienatzilas, then he's puyo a bitl b'mahus. Even a shinui in the etzem mahus of the nira. So now even mahus. Well, that means that he just becomes completely and utterly ois. He becomes completely and utterly bottle legami to elikus. It's interesting to be easy madregezu. Is that shite to say anything like that about a Beinoni, or is that already been goyvel in Yonim Nailim biyoisa? From the Hemshech Advonim, it's not mashma. That there can be a bitl b'mahus, afilu b'anoshim regilim, afilu keino. V'yesh leima, davke because it's a inyan makiv, even in the avodah of the mention, rusa de liba sokos of the makiv, it ever maybe ulai efshe. Me kan sagen that it's alternative with the Russisch Yidden when they came out of Russia. They tiny that they got into the Medina's so-called Arvocha, that they couldn't sort of understand, what sort of a leaven it is. And then they felt that they were curious me madrigoso. And so the Rebbe once spoke about it, that they have to say the posik in Tilim, Kain Bakoidish Chazisicha. We should see you in the Kodesh just like we saw you over there. They have to say that Kavana, you said. Sagen mit der starke Kavana. In other words, that it's possible for a mensch to hold by a certain beetle which is always legamri, he's absolutely given away to Rotzen Havaya, and he doesn't reckon with anything. Nicht mit Tziusei, nicht mit Go nicht. But it's not a teacher that's been meshana him mamish durch and durch. The alien chapped him. Or the teacher these mamish are andere mention in the sense that he's bottled and cheese like Amri Lelakus. Well, that's a tzaddik. That's what he goyvel or inyonim nailim mei. But upon him that can be puyo a bitl b'mahus ayinim. וכנגד בעניין כל שחופץ השם עשו, שזהו לי יש הביטל באילמס. אך משקוס בתורה דיבר מסך מזוזה מין, והכוונה שם על הביטל במהוס היש. שהרי, how do I know that? גם האור דבחינס דבר השם, פועל גם כן הביטל בהנברא. ועניין הצורה שמבחינס חפץ השם, הוא ליש הביטל בעצם המהוס. כמו שכוס מוקים אחר. This is a very fascinating Indian over there in that Maimah, but it's really brought becoming Mekimus and Siddhas. But yesh lema, like the Sefer Torah, is sometimes the Lashonas are very makutza, and they're very sort of, they have a certain boomkeit in them, some of the Lashonas in Torah. They're very sort of like, stark to the zach, on chochmas. And even though that in is mavuya, that's written sort of rather briefly but sharply. And that is, we have two psukim. One pasuk says, Bidvar Hashem Shomayim Nasu, V'ruach Piv Kol Tzvar. In other words, that the Shomayim V'oros, they come from Dibur. What Dibur and Ruach Pi v'Inyan are pokot yoter the same inyan. And then we have a posik Kol Asher Chofetz Hashem also b'Shamayim over. So we see that that's also Shamayim over. So it's Kol Asher Chofetz Hashem also. So Chassidus says it's two inyanim. That the inyan from Dibur, the etum inyan of the Oisius, are different. Later on in that moment he gets onto the Oisius, Barich. The etum Oisius are Dibur, they bring about a Metzias, just like Dibur creates a Metzias of Oisius, and those Oisius are Mahava, a certain inyan, like it's brought down in the Gemara, that you got to be careful what you say, because you can actually cause a Metzias to be, Rahman al. You have to be very careful. Therefore, you say sometimes when you're talking, you say shouldn't damage anybody, shouldn't hurt, because the inyan for Dibur is a door from Habayis Samatzias. Is Ve'ilu the inyan for Rotzen or this Akuya Klali. So he said, when you get to the Nivra, that's two inyanim. There's the etzem, what you might call Muhus, the Nivra, he becomes a Yesh, he becomes a inyan, kilu b'fnei atzmei, chutz from Elikus, and then there's a inyan what the Elikus will from him. What does Elikus really want from him? And that what he really wants from him is, oddly enough, becomes what you call his tzula. In other words, his shape and the way he looks. And that's what Elikus really wants from him. Sof koso. It's a very fascinating inyan, lakwe v'lidroish b'zeh, that what the Eibush really wants of you is noticeable in your shape. I think from them Lashon. And therefore, Bnei Adam are built, they're called in the Mishnah in Tamura, I think it's Mishnah Tamura, it's very much Masayta, that's it. The Mishnah calls a mensch a Mahalach Shtayim. Calls animals Mahalach Arba, and a mensch is called a Hoilach Shtayim, a Hoilach Shtayim, a Mahalach Shtayim. In other words, a mensch goes on 2 feet. He's an upright being, and therefore, like the Alter Rebbe said, he can look up at the heavens. It hurts his neck a bit, but he can look at the heavens. He can spend his whole day looking at the heavens if he wants. An animal, his cup is all more up. His cup is all more in the grass. If he looks up the heavens, if he did that too much, he'd be ois behemoth. He would just stop being a behemoth. You got to be careful not to look down into the grass. You got to look up the whole time. A mensch is created in such a way that he can look at the heavens, he can talk about the heavens, and he's a Mahalach Shtayim. He's aimed al Shnei Raglayim v'Roishei Kilu L'mayla. So we see that the tzura plays a tremendous part in the mensch. And then there's a tzuras kleis to haponim, the features of the mensch. This tzura that they have is very hard to describe exactly, because it's an inyan klali, it's an inyan from das Wilman from them mensch killer. What he's all about is noticeable to Mevina Dora, Afim and Misaviv Loi. And the same with, behemoths, their tzura is, to a certain extent, Megala, what the Eibush really wants of them. A behemoth walks on 4 feet, he wants him to schlep things, he wants him to do it, he wants him to take an easel, so he'll be a good behemoth. Nog solche inyanim, and yes, lachre of liderish bezeh habu ma'id. And birds, there's some other type of, they fly and they have different abilities. They are representative, and they have in themselves dugmois, of nishomas and ochazochin. So everything's got a certain tzura, which is malamed of what Eibush the will from them. What's your will from them? Mahu sokoso, mahu ratza. That's what the Alter Rebbe says over there. On that surah, if you come to realize what is be'emes, the pa'ura, a rotzen Hashem in you come to the chayfetz havaya, then you become bottled v'etzmamos. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. You just lose your whole normal gestel, and you just give yourself away to rotzen havaya. In other words, that if we were just to be misboinen, then why are we standing on 2 feet? And for what's over me a cup, and for what's over me you know, eyes, nog zo in was to him with a board, alle in Jan, what is it? And a mensch would really be, would be massing that. He'd be bottled to the Eibishter. He'd give himself away like that. That's a pilly gesagt. When you think about it, it's mamish. The other night I was sitting here in a shiur and one of the Bochum said something and it just gave me a zet, you know. I'd probably been aware of that all my life, but I never realized, you know, takaza, you know. And it really had quite a profound effect on me. That he said that if you see a jungle and you see millions of blades of grass, you know, vegetation galore, I mean, mamish laid on. If you take every leaf in that vegetation and you examine it properly, botanically or was, that one is not the same as the other. There's not one thing which is bedimian afil to the other. They're all shoinim betachas ashinui. And I must admit, you know, I probably knew that sometime. Maybe I heard it, but that gave me a zet. You know, that it's so unbelievable. You know, maybe just, you know, when you walk on these pieces of stone, for example, who knows what the hell is in all these stones? You know, what they're made of, and you know, all the different cells, and it's unbelievable when you're misbeaten and even kosher. And then you come to a higher, there's a tzura in that, and that tzura is mevate chayfet. What did the Eibishter really want with that? Was hat gewollt? Yeah? Or that's an andere Indian altogether. If you were to really be kochen, just in your tzura, wie says to us, and favuas, then you would have a bit in your mahus. You wouldn't be the way you normally are. Because you wouldn't just say, oh, I was made to polish off cream cakes or something. Because, you know, you'd be eating a cream cake and you say, wait a minute, you know, my tzura is different. You know, maybe the Eibishter really meant something else, you know. And, you know, you just would leave things behind. You wouldn't have any shaykhs. I'm a man. I'm a Adam. So it sounds balabatish, but it's not. As I state dort in the Bible.
Why in all the Bria everything is different?
Huh?
Why in all the Bria everything is different?
Yeah.
But why?
I don't know. But what I'm saying is,
why every blade of grass is
we see the unbelievable pille in the Bria. And if it's kach, there's a similar. The Eibishter wants from every blade, he has another shlichus, another inyan. Efes willen van them. Otherwise, just make them all the same. And that's the pshat, that the tzura is different. I saw a most amazing thing the other night. I just happened to look over the shoulder of my Einigal, my female Einigal, that she learns now in Beis Rivka. The Rivka's daughter, Penina. And she was hammering away there in English. She was trying to sort out words in her text. And I read the text. You know what was written there? I said, Mamish mispolyms there. You know these dolphins, you know these mammals that are called dolphins? I mean, they're amazing creatures. I mean, everybody knew they were amazing before this. But now they found out that if you have people who are, you know, Rahman in Islam, incapable, mamish people who are maimed and all that, if you get them friendly with dolphins and then you put them in the water and you allow them to swim around where the dolphins are swimming and let the dolphins touch them, they can heal them. Yeah, and they've got in 2 or 3 places in America, they've got what they call dolphin healing centers. Yeah, and they tell a story there about a child that he was dumb from birth. He couldn't talk. He never said a word in his whole life. And they heard about this dolphin. And they came and they bought him, and he wanted to go in the water and play with the dolphins. And after about 2 or 3 times that he played in the water, and the dolphins touched him, brushing past him and that, and he played with them in the water. He got out and he stood on the bank, and then they said, no, that's enough for today. And he pointed at the water and he said, in. All of a sudden he said a word, the first word he'd ever said in his life. He said, in. He wants to go back into the water. And now he's on the way to, he's in special therapy now, and they're developing his speech, and they hope that eventually he'll be able to talk, maybe not, but tachlis ashleiman, but he'll be able to talk. As he stayed there, she's fishing around and just looking for words, tell me this word, write down that word. I said, do you realize what's written there? I mean, do you know what you're actually reading? I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's written in this text that there's several of these centers have been opened in America and they're having amazing hashpah. It's amazing. Everything has got a rotten. Everything's got a rotten. It's true. And it occurred to me that they sort of jump up in on it and they go down. They've got this Indian of elevation of the self, and the whole sort of mass. Al-Manas, to bring gracefulness and tainug into the Bria. Leviasan, Yotzata, Lesachik boy, Aina von Taina. Kaviocha. That surah as a goodness be etzem. Fellow that. And I was very impressed by that. Because things like that help you to understand certain nakudas. That's what's written over there in Torah. Over there it's written that the tzura of everything is Megala the Rotzen, V'zeh Megala Abitel Shalei Lelakus. So we come to the fish even the water. How does the dolphin come to the water? Does it the tzura and does it the Rotzen? You become bottled to the Rotzen. There's poil in the Abitel. Where's the text? Poil in the Abitel. You can just walk around the whole life with your children. Where's the bittul? You need a certain kesher with them. If you make this bonus, the bittul. They are children. Amamile says the Rebbe, that's poor bittul b'mahusaya. That's what's written over there. If you get to that Indian, you lose your whole normal status in the world. You don't just walk around a self-interested individual looking for your own little, shtickle. But you become somebody who's devoted. What am I all about? What is my chayfet? What's it Dave's gewollt from me? Ma'urata. And you come to the conclusion that since I don't look like Pliny, I must have a special in what Dave's wanted of me. And he doesn't look like me because Dave's will von him eich. Or will von him mashu acher. Another rotz nifla. And if you have that, you say, I have to start all over again. I've got to write off my old life. I've got to start all over again. Very good. Pile plugs. I don't know. Maybe I just for some reason I feel these pilots with those sort of Anyway, we just shared it together for a bit. Shei Gam. Je kan שם ביטל במהוס היש, שהרי גם האור לבחינס דבר השם, well that's דיבור, פועל גם כן הביטל בנברא. But that's a binyan from ביטל hayeh. You just know that you're created. Okay, you're created, shalom aleichem. That's also pועל הביטל. Aber Bittul Atzura is what you're looking to really carry out your Emes HaKavona. Ve'inen Atzura, shemebchinas chayfetz Hashem, huli is a Bittul be'etzem amus, k'mesh kalt machanacha. V'hainu, mimnei sha'er, hu l'mayla mi'slabses be'kelim, ve'ena b'chinas tefisa, al keinu nimshach u'meya b'kol, mokim. In other words, that chayfetz, or that surah, what the aims to put in you, and that's your ultimate tachlis amiti, or that comes from the aims that he's built him up. This is MVR is. L'mayla mi'kol did as well. Everything can be different. Every little blade of grass is ganz and shena chad mea Hashem. I remember in Australia there used to be these bull ants, You also see thousands of these ants crawling all over the place. You got to keep out of the way. They're a little bit nasty if they get you. And nonetheless, we say that every one of them is another barrier altogether. He's Eino B'Tei Mazel. In other words, that every little ant has also got some meaning what the Eibishter will for them. The will, there's all pearls on after somehow. And when Moshiach had come, we have to have some sort of Musik, in die soorten jaren. En maar, the Rizal was very machmir never to kill anything. He stated in Kisvei Rizal, you should never kill another barrier, no matter what it is. Ela im kain, it's muchach, that it's a dover hamazik, and it's same with lahazik, or tcha, or sviva hakori, then you're allowed to maybe consider killing it. Aber stam hier, the state of the, I forget what it was, of the, zijn van de eniglijk van de heilige Ruzna, een van de Sarigura, or the Husiatina, I don't know who he was. And he said that after a lot of Aveda, he came to the conclusion that his opinion is that he will never be mazik any barrier. He'll never be mazik anything. One of his whole inyanim in the world, not to be mazik anything. And he said, a fellow Agoya, they state that he wouldn't be mazik anything. So this the question, if he was being attacked by a Hamas or something like that, was it at that time? Islam was shnei dvarim. All of the Davids would never bring that to him. Or base, he would just take one look at the Hamas and he would fall anyway. Below he fell away. Yeah. Sipurim Ka'ela. I mean, Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa put his heel over the hole and the Gemara Masechta Taina, and the snake bit him. So who died? The snake died. I stated in the Gemara. He was Mistamon Azar Darge that if anybody would have wanted to be Mazik him, they would have cut this up. Anyway, so he says, "V'hainu mimnei sha'oil, u'mayla mi'eslav sevekelen, v'einu b'chinu tefisa, o keinu nimshach u'meir b'kol, ma'okim u'kamoi kein ba'avida, sheb'shas atfila, ari u'mizbein be'lakus u'mispayel ba'ava, v'ir, v'ach atfila misani u'jeme, v'loi nishar u'jeme, v'hu ha'mais v'poel mamish, v'mitzvus ma'iziyah." Is that good? After davening, you become very mahadar in mitzvahs. Ma'aseh, so we'll hold there. We won't say anything in the coming sentence because we don't want to say anything that might be slightly disappointing at the end of this particular class, or any class for that matter, because we want to be mamshing only teva, the chesed of Yidden Yetzt, and the Eivish will bring Moshiach. All the other masters forget about it. Der wird sagen, dass der sollte mit der See machen, forget it. Could have only Moshiach. I mean, you just see what unbelievable confusion they're getting themselves into. This is unbelievable. Very so. It's the old classical case that I told you so. I mean, they knew years ago that this would eventually come out of the whole thing. After it became I remember when the Paris of Gishin Azot Chila was his idea. And I remember somebody asked me, this, so I said, Azot Chilas Kolatzoris. So I shouldn't have said it.